And welcome everyone to another edition of Orlando Magic Pod Squad. Dante Marcatelli, Jake Chapman, George Galante, and it's my pleasure to bring in Michael Carter-Williams, 9 NBA seasons, 4 right here in City Beautiful, from 18 to 23. And Mike, it's always good to catch up with you. And George, you know what I love about this? Obviously, he had a terrific career. We loved what he did here in Central Florida, part of some fun teams, went to the playoffs, but now he's joined the dark side. He's a
Yes.
member of the media. Yeah. I love
Who
it.
would have thunk that? Who would have thought that, Michael, when you were getting toward the end of your career? Did this pop in your head, or was this just forced upon you by Jake Chapman?
No. This was definitely in my set of plans. I didn't know if I wanted to coach or be in the media side of things. A big reason why I went to Syracuse was because of the broadcasting program. So early on, I knew I wanted to, leave that open, if that was something that I wanted to, go down.
But Mike, you do a great job. And for those that don't know, he's part of the radio broadcast with Jake Chapman. You can hear the games on 96.9. You can listen on the iHeart app, wherever you're at, League Audio Pass. And it's a fun listen. And I just got to know from your experience, nothing like being at the games. Those home games are fun. It's challenging on the road when you're broadcasting remotely, calling a game off a monitor. But what's your experience been the few games you've done?
It's been great. Jake's been doing a great job, helping me out, teaching me the ropes. I kind of just feed off him, to be honest. But yeah, you could definitely tell
that's the nicotine that you're feeding out. I'm kidding.
Being on the road is a little bit more tough because obviously you don't have that energy in the building, and
right.
When you have that energy and you have that excitement, you could just hear it in your voice. So I've been having to adjust, watching the games on the monitor and trying to keep my energy up, and so it is challenging. It's tough, but those are the things you got to go through. Get my man Jake on the road, man. What's going on?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know.
Come
It's
on.
coming. It's coming eventually.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. No question about it. Jake, I know it's a blast for you to have Mike in there with you.
It's been awesome. And I'm not sure. I don't know if anybody can top the first game that Michael Carter-Williams broadcast on the radio,
right.
Which was the 50 piece from Paulo Banchero last week. And Mike, obviously, beginning of the season where we got a lot of stuff going on, and it was your first broadcast. But you talk about comparing the energy between calling an away game and the energy in the building that night. Did you think back and say, wow, I just experienced something pretty special, and I got a chance to call it, and it's the first game I've done on the radio? That's pretty unique.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I'm going to do something for the first time, I seem to get some really good beginner's luck. So if any of you guys need that, I my first game in my NBA career, my first game in college, my first broadcast, And so, hey, listen, but no, that was unbelievable, right? Like I look back at that and I'm like, man, my first game, I get to call a 50 piece, from Paulo, who's, going to probably be a Hall of Famer one day. Something to tell my kids, and, just to have the experience was, unreal.
Mike, I got to get your thoughts on this because you've seen this before, and you've either been a part of it or you have friends that have. You have the 50 piece from Paulo. You take off on the road, then you lose Paulo. You lose him the very next game, right? At the end, I take us through the emotions of Paulo, right? Who is excited? He's off to a great start, 29 points a game, and then how is he feeling when he finds out he's sidelined for 4 to 6 weeks? And then what is that? It's got to do a job mentally on the rest of the team. Just knowing that you're without that guy.
Yeah, I mean, for Paulo, obviously the injury is, it sucks. And knowing you're going to have to go down a long road of rehab. He's out for a good period of time. So I'm sure he's, obviously bummed about that, but he's a focused kid, right? Like his demeanor he's always been focused. When I was there, he was, he's diligent about his work. So I'm sure doesn't have that challenge of, going through this long rehab. But he's the leader of this team. He's the,
right.
The best player on the team. He knows that. He's probably gutted that he can't be out there and help the team. Seeing them struggle probably hurts. And then for the rest of the guys, yeah, I mean, it's a battle, right? It's a battle between, okay, then now there's a lot more opportunity on the floor. So, from a personal standpoint, it's like, okay, I can really show what I can do and reach, some goals, but also it's a big adjustment for the whole team. Jake and I were talking, and we were just talking about how they're used to playing one way, right? Paulo attracts so much attention that other guys are freed up in these different areas, and are able to play off that, and have been playing like that, since Paulo has gotten here, because he's made an immediate impact. So now that he's gone, it's like, what do we do now? Like, what is my role now? Like, figuring out what that looks like. And I think they're, trying to figure it out, right? We talk about guys like KCP, right? He's a guy that, played with Jokic for a long time, and, he kind of fed off his game and then came in to Orlando and had similar role with Paulo. And now he's like, okay, you could see that yesterday he was a little bit more aggressive, right? And I think he's going to try to, all those guys are trying to figure out that process of like, how can I be a little more aggressive in the right spots without forcing the issue, and how can we play as a team better?
And Mike, as a player though, how hard is that on the fly to do? Because now you don't get a training camp again now, right? To kind of reprocess how you're going to play and who you're going to play off of. I mean, the games are coming and they're not going to stop. So how hard is that as a player and as a team to kind of just recalibrate to what you're going to do?
It's really hard, because as a competitor, you're like, I want to do the most to make this team win. But then also you got to be smart, because you can't go out there and try to win it by yourself and you try to force the issue, right? Like, even the first game that Paulo was out, Jaylen had a really, really good game, right? He kind of put the Superman cape on, was like, I'm going to try to win this the best way possible, right? And then the next game, it was like, okay, they're, focusing on me a little bit more now. And that's another adjustment period, right? So it's really hard to do on the fly. Guys work really hard to settle in their role. That's something that, you have to do at this level. Sometimes guys have to take a back seat and be like, okay, this is my role. I need to thrive in this role. And mentally, you're thinking about that all the time. So you're stuck in that. And then when things change, it's like, okay, now you want me to come out of my role. So it's a cat and mouse game that you need to play. And it's really, really difficult to do that.
Jake, that's damn good analysis. You're not going to have him for long. Somebody's going to snatch him up.
No,
This is
short stint for you, Jake.
Enjoy him while you got him.
Go back to talking to yourself.
I appreciate that. Like, that isn't playing through the back of my head constantly. Mike, one of the things we haven't talked about, it's almost a cliche. Like, when Paulo comes back, inevitably he's going to get the question, what was it like seeing it from a different perspective? Were you able to learn anything on the bench? Is he, are you, as an injured player, especially one who's as young and as featured in the offense as Paolo Banchero is there any benefit to seeing it from that angle?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's always good to watch, right? You can always learn from sitting there watching. But I personally think his mind is going to be so focused on, turning the train around. Like, he's like, he knows that, he's probably itching to get back on the floor. So you got that, kind of anxiety to be like, I need to get back on the floor to help the team. But I think it's going to be a weight off Orlando's chest, and they're going to try, get back to playing how they used to. But right now, I just think they're doing a science project right now. Like, what pieces can we find that fit, real well when Paulo comes back? And sometimes it's like that, right? Like, what key pieces can we find that might help us play well, in April, So it's tough to, watch as a fan a little bit, just because, obviously, losing is never easy. And I'm sure it's tough for them as well. But trying to stay positive. I thought last night they played real well. I think if they can continue to play like that and tweak a few things, I think they, win some games. So, and we got a couple winnable ones coming up. So I think that, just like Jaylen said, then, keep staying focused, keep doing the work, keep getting the shots up. And, hopefully we can knock some threes down. That will help us out a little bit.
Man, I think of Michael Williams, Michael Carter Williams' time here in Orlando, and I think of the playoffs in Toronto, and I think about the bloody nose and the tissue up there, right? I think about how hard you played, and you mentioned Jaylen Suggs. You must enjoy the heck out of how hard he plays. I remember asking you, can you, if you don't want to get hurt or take a shot to the nose, can you be hesitant or just kind of ease off a little bit? And, and as you would imagine, he told me, I can't dial it back. I only know one way to play. Right. He seems to be the same way. What do you appreciate about Jaylen Suggs and the way he goes about things?
Yeah, I think he has that mentality, right? He only knows how to play one way, right? He's a dual athlete who played football, and you can see the aggressiveness in his game, on both ends of the floor, and it's great. They needed a guy like him. That's why they we're trying to re-sign him or re-sign him for the big bucks. So yeah, I think even yesterday, right? He comes in the game, steal, deflection, the first three possessions of the game, right? He sets the tone on the defensive end. And I think he excels in that role, even more when, Paulo comes back and, Franz keeps on settling in. I know he's been injured and sick and, so he's asked to take a big step up offensively too. So a lot of guys are, right? And once he gets back, I think other guys are going to even excel even more in that role.
So, Michael, you've only been doing this now for a few games. What have you learned for your own preparation going into a game? Did you have nerves going into that first game with Jake, or was it just sitting with Jake and he's a little creepy? Because a lot of people do get that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I was nervous just because like I've been talking about basketball for so long in my life. I think that if I had to pick what, I was most concerned about, it was just about saying a lot in short segments. I try not to have run on sentences or, talk a long time because I know that the plays are going. So trying to say in very few words and trying to mean a lot was something that's, been challenging for me and something that I'm trying to work on.
See, that's the beauty of radio, though, is you only have to worry about the talky part. You don't have to worry about the camera looking good part.
Exactly.
So we keep it nice and loose up there. Mike, what can the homestand do? We talked about trying to adjust on the fly, getting home, getting some practice time, but just being in a place where you're comfortable and a couple home cooked meals, it's probably going to make a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, just being in your own space, sleeping in your own bed, getting good rest, getting the proper treatment that you can get. Sometimes when you're on the road, there's only 3 or 4 tables that you can use in the away games, right? Like you got, your hot tubs, your cold tubs, you can, really refresh your body. So it does. It means a lot. You got the 6th man on the floor with you in the crowd. And, you bring that passion, you bring that passion out. And they got some games where, they can win on at this homestand. So getting the guys' confidence back up, getting a night where, we're shooting the ball pretty well and everything's going right for you. The ball is bouncing your way. It's a good time for them to be back home, kind of resettle, hit the drawing board again, fix some mistakes and, get back in the win column.
Hopefully it's a big homestand. Hopefully you can, they're all winnable games, as you mentioned, and you can certainly make you certainly make up some ground here. I want to get your thoughts, and I got to think it's hard for everyone that's ever played the game when you get to the point and you say, okay, I either got to keep going at this, or is it time to call it a career and figure out what I'm going to do next and figure out next step. To kind of take us through your process as you're still wanting to play the game of basketball and still trying to decide what does life after basketball look like?
Yeah, for me, it was more of, I've always had the mentality of like, listen, you're going to have to kick me out the league.
Right.
Like there's got to be no spots left for me. And, obviously I had the double ankle surgery, which didn't help. I felt like I could never really get back to the player I, thought I was on the floor. Kind of the mind telling you to do something, but the body won't let you. Just going through those trials and tribulations. I was away from, I got 2 kids now, 6 and 3-year-old, away from the family a lot. I always pride myself that, I know I can do more than just play basketball. So I think it was time for me to, hang them up and be like, I still could be involved in the game. I'm doing a bunch of other stuff off the floor as well. And then, I still stayed in it, right? I talked to the guys last season in the playoffs a little bit, talking to a few coaches as well, just talking about the game and what they can look for. So yeah, it's a tough process, obviously, to, give up the sport that you've been playing, your whole life. But I was ready for it. I enjoy being a dad every day. I enjoy being a husband, just being home, for a long period of time. But now I'm like, man, I gotta get out. I gotta get out the house now. I gotta get out. I gotta get out.
Okay, so what does that look like? Obviously, we're thrilled to have you, and we want you to do as many games and be around as much as possible. But I know you've got a lot of irons in the fire. So what are some of your interests? What are some of the things that might be possibilities for you now that you're retired?
Well, I want to stick in the broadcasting lane. I'm going to do some ACC games. I'm going to do some for ESPN. I'm going to starting in January. I'm going to do some with them. That's like 2-3 days a week, and I'm going to try to be back here to continue to do some work with you guys and Jake. And I have a real estate company that's based in Connecticut. Myself, Mo Harkless, and 2 other guys as well. So we're grinding on that every day. And yeah, just I love the aspect of business in terms of investments, in real estate and some private equity stuff, and just wheeling and dealing, right? Like just the name of the game, and I enjoy it, have fun with it, and yeah, I just try to keep myself as busy as possible.
That's great. See, George, he has options that are available to him that you and I won't when we retire.
Yeah, but you notice he said they're gonna have to kick me out. Like he has the same mentality that us 3 have had this since we.
Yes,
Hey, look, you let me in. It's your fault. You're gonna have to kick me out now at some point, right? Like that's
You're
on
the
you
wheels
now.
fall
Like
off. You're right.
I'm settled here. You're gonna have to kick me out.
Yep.
Did you ever think, Michael, like going back, I hadn't realized that Orlando was your main spot. I mean, that was where you ended your career, but looking back, 2 years in Philly, 2 years in Milwaukee, 1 in Charlotte, 4 in Orlando. Like, did you ever think that it would be that long? And then you're still here. You never left.
Yeah, I love the city. I loved being in Orlando. People always ask me where's my favorite place to play, and my answer is quickly Orlando. I built some really good relationships with the front office and the coaches here, with Coach Mosley and Coach Cliff. And yeah, I always felt like they, really. Then the city here too, right? They always embrace me with a guy that if he steps on the floor, he's going to play as hard as he could. And it was everybody, the front office, the staff, the fans, the city, it made it easy for me to have that motivation. So I always wanted to give back in that way. And then when I had kids, they settled in here. They're going to school out here. They're playing a bunch of sports, just involved with the community. And I really love it here.
Mike, you talk about the community. I know you experienced a playoff run, but last year it felt like, and I wasn't here for the playoff run, it felt like it did back in the Dwight days. I mean, the town was on fire, and some of that is having young talent like Paulo and Franz. But it really feels like the beginning of something that could be really special. Did you feel that around town last year as we got into the postseason, and obviously that Cavs series, just some enthusiasm that you haven't really felt in a long time?
Oh yeah, 100%. Right. I think Coach Cliff actually used to always say, like, this city will come out and really, really show out in the playoffs if you give it your all, if you make the playoffs, if you do the right things on and off the floor. So definitely, right? Definitely. I think the city feels the energy from this young team and can see the potential. And they give full support behind that. And yeah, I really do think this team can be, special. And they got a star in them. They got 2 stars. I think Franz is going to be a star as well. But obviously, Paulo's he could be, a really, really special guy.
Mike, I want to get your thoughts on, that obviously 4 years here in Central Florida, parts of 4 different teams, but that 18-19 team, I go back to that time. They needed something to get them over the hump. This was a team that was kind of stuck a little bit, right? And then you go to March of 2019 and you add Michael Carter-Williams to the roster, and you think it all kind of came together the last month and a half to make that playoff push, to grab one of my favorite memories. I've been here with this team 27 years, but that win in Boston when you clinched a playoff spot, and we knew for the first time since this whole kind of rebuild started that we're going back to the playoffs, right? Take us through kind of when you think back about that time, and obviously go grab that first win in Toronto, which was unbelievable, but that stretch run, joining this team, and then kind of being a part of that team in that run.
Yeah, no, it was unbelievable, right? We only had we had to win some games to make the playoffs, right? It was really tight. And I just remember Coach Cliff calling me when I was at home, and he's like, "Hey, I need somebody to come in and play right away. Are you in shape? If you come down here tomorrow, can you play?" And I was like, "Listen, I'm ready." I had been grinding heavy. I was going through some stuff off the floor, so I used working out kind of as a device for me to, really stay focused. And, I was in great shape, right? I was so happy that I prepared myself at that time for, a call on the spot. I was in great shape. I went down there and was able to have an immediate impact on the defensive end and, be a contribution to putting us over the hump. And, it was a great time. That feeling of clinching the playoffs is nothing like it. So, and it was in my hometown. I'm from Boston. So it was,
Right.
it was special for me too.
Describe that relationship you have with Coach Clifford, Mike, because we all have one. He was here for a long time, both as an assistant and a head coach. Like, talk about your relationship with Coach Clifford.
Cliff is kind of a guy that sugarcoats things, isn't he, Mike?
No, the exact opposite. And I think that's why I love him so much, right? He always tells you, what it is. I remember my first year in Charlotte. Me and him were just, talk about basketball. Like I could tell that, he's from, he lives in New Hampshire, Maine area. I'm from Boston. So we talked about all the mutual people that we knew growing up. He actually saw my stepfather play in high school. Like we just, we were building a relationship. And then right after preseason for our first game, he comes up to me and he goes, "I just want you to know that you're not in the rotation, but stay ready." Right. And I was like, normally you feel like, dang, I'm not in the rotation, I'm not playing. But I was like, man, like it's so refreshing to hear somebody just be brutally honest with me. And for me, it was like, okay, like I know where you stand. I know where I stand. I know it's a long season. I'm going to be the best teammate I can be on the bench. I'm going to tell these guys what I see. I'm going to tell you what I see. And I felt comfortable communicating that with him, right? He trusted my knowledge of the game. During that season, I ended up, being able to work my way into the rotation. But that for me was big, right? The honesty that he provides to his guys is, it's really special. And I just appreciated that about him so much. And we were able to build a relationship over the years. And when I got the call from him, I felt like he could trust my word and me being ready and me accepting a role on the team that not everybody likes to accept. And, he appreciated that about me, and I appreciated his honesty, and I trusted him. And so, I still talk to him, till this day. He's, doing his thing over, still in Charlotte, doing some consulting. And, yeah, I'm just, happy to have, him in my life. And he was a great guy for me.
I think it's interesting. I want to get your thoughts on this because, Jamal Mosley kind of did the same thing with Cole Anthony, right? So we kind and you know both of them. You know Jamal Mosley, you know Cole. I thought Cole was unbelievable the way he's handled it. Listen, I'm not playing well. I'm going to get my way back in. We know Cole is going to be fine. He's going to figure things out. But is that similar? You kind of have the conversation, and they said, okay, listen, it's someone else's time right now, but you got to earn it back. And Cole as well as anyone, and eventually he's going to get back in there.
Yeah, of course. And you could see different spurts where Cole, he had one good, he had a good game. I think he had 8 or 9 points. And you could see that his confidence was coming back a little bit. You saw the shiftiness in his game. You saw the swagger that he was putting on. And you're like, okay, you can see him, starting to get back to his old ways a little bit. And, sometimes it's tough, right? Through your NBA career, you go through some tough times. And he's had a great attitude about it. He's been honest with himself. He said, I've been stinking it up. I haven't been playing well. But I think that Coach Mosley, I think the fans, I think all of us media, we know Cole, we know what he's capable of doing out there. He'll get another shot. He'll get an opportunity. It's just about him being ready for that opportunity, right? I think he's gonna, if Orlando wants to be good, they need that guy who can come off the bench and score the ball. Right.
How hard? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
I was going to say how hard is that to stay ready? I know because you said you had to do it and you did it. And how hard is that for Cole, who's probably never had to do it before? He's probably been playing, up until this year all the time. Like, how hard is that as a player?
It's hard. It's tough. It's mentally, it's really hard. I think you go through ebbs and flows. But I think you get to a point where you got to your mentality just has to be different, right? You're like, it's not about playing today. It's not about playing next game. It's not about playing then, right? It's like, okay, I can use this time. If I have bumps and bruises, I can use it to get healthy. I could up my lifting routine. I can get in the best shape possible. I can do my work. Like I can up my workouts, and be really, really sharp, right? Like sharpen all the tools you have in the shed. So when you do get your chance, you're ready, right? Like I remember when I wasn't playing, there was times where I got so much better. just being a sharper guy, a sharper, I wasn't playing in the game. So I knew before the game, I was, I would gain, if I wasn't playing for a month, I would try to, use all the resources that I can, right? Like what's my body comp now and what's my body comp in a month from now, do all those things to really improve yourself as a player and use it as this workout period to be really, really good. So when you do step on the court, guys are like, man, like, why wasn't he playing, and use that as motivation and keep being in Moses' ear, right? Not as a player, we're like, why am I not playing? Why am I not playing? But Coach Mose, what do we need out there? What do you think that we need out there? All right. And figure out that answer and then go be that. And then while you're being that guy, whether if it's defensively, whether it's scoring, whatever it is, you can do whatever you want do on the court while you're doing whatever the team needs. So I think he just has to stay locked in, stay with the team, and really use this time to just get better as a player.
That's fascinating, and
That's a good answer.
I've never thought about it
great point.
like that. And I also have never thought about what my body comp looks like when I get a month off from the beginning.
No, you don't want to do that
to the end of it. That's not something anybody wants to hear about. Guys, I found out last night that I've got competition for the president of the Goga Batase fan club, and he's my broadcast partner.
Hey.
Okay.
Mike, tell me what you like about Goga, and I suspect part of it is Goga's path, is what happened in Indiana and where he was, and the chance he was given here, and the fact that he pounced upon it. He's been great the last 2 games, and you talk about a third string center at the beginning of the year. I think we all knew he was going to have an opportunity, but he's delivered, and he's going to be counted upon moving forward, isn't he?
I think you guys just like that he has a robust beard. I think that's what you.
That helps.
That helps. That does help. The beard club. Yeah, no, me and Goga, we connected real early as soon as he got to Orlando. Him and I have similar interests off the floor. We were able to, talk, build a relationship. We worked out together a bunch because we were kind of in the same position in terms of, being new to the team, not playing that much. But, when I started watching him play and getting to know him and working out with him, and me and him would play one-on-one, like we were, we were real tight. And we have the same agent as well. And I remember calling my agent, and I'm like, man, like, I don't know what you got to say, but Goga's got to play. Like he's really good. Like he makes an impact on the game. Like he is a shot blocker. He's unselfish. He can pass the ball. He's always looking to make plays. He's got to get minutes in here some way, somehow. And I think that over time, Orlando started to see that in him. And obviously, his path of making it where he is amazing. And I just think he's a really talented guy. He's passionate. He's physical. He doesn't take shit from anyone. And those are the guys that you need on your team. And I think he has a really, really bright future. And he can come in. He can play 5-10 minutes and change the whole game.
Now you're a UFC guy, and the champ is from his country of Georgia, right? So I mean, who has more of an affinity for him, you or Goga?
That's one thing that me and Goga connected on a lot was UFC and the guys that who are coming out of Georgia. He's been telling me about these guys for a little bit now. So I don't know. We went to a fight together.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. We went to a fight together. And then I think I saw him at a fight too, just randomly. Like we saw each other in the crowd. Like, and so awesome. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. So like,
does he know Merab? I mean, he must have met him. He must have
met Merab. I think so. And then there's another guy. I'm pretty sure he trains out of Georgia, but he's Spanish though. But I think he trains out of Georgia. But yeah, no, those guys are super talented, strong dudes. Even Goga, like he might not look like the strongest dude, but like bumping him and being in the mix with him, he's real strong.
Well, he competes. He battles out there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I know he would have loved to have grabbed that victory last night at Indiana. All right, give us your final thoughts, Mike. I know it's Magic fans are excited about this team. They are with them through thick and thin. And it's hard right now. It's hard. It's easy to look at and say, okay, you need Paulo, but we got to move on from that, right? You don't have him, not going to have him for a few weeks. So what would your advice be? Words of encouragement for Magic fans that need it as we get ready for this big homestand.
Yeah, I think at a, you always I think as an organization piece, I think a fan's a part of the organization, right? And at certain times, it's easy to cheer, it's easy to be loud when our team's rolling and doing well. But you know, as a family, as a whole, right? Now's a time where we need all hands on deck, right? So come out, show support, be loud in the gym. You know, when we're making our runs, be that extra motivation. Because you know, in payback, you know, when we are full strength and we are doing the things that we, you know, normally do, you know, we're going to go out there and give it our all. So, you know, in times of distress, we need you, because I'm going to be there. Like, let's go.
Well said. Well said. We get some home cooking, and keep up the great work with Jake. It's a great listen. All games, 96.9 the game. You're splitting games with Terrence Ross, who you're close with as well. You guys both do you guys both make it fun, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I know T. Ross is in the mix. Yep.
Yeah, and the ESPN thing for a New England guy has got to be fun. That's got to be a cool opportunity that's coming.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited. So we'll see how it goes. I have to tap into more college than NBA. So it's fun. It's been good.
Don't get too good now, because we need you here with Jay.
I'm always coming back to the home cooking. Don't worry.
All right. Awesome. Well, we'd love to have you. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll see you here soon. That'll do it for this edition of Magic Pod Squad with Michael Carter Williams. We'll see you next time.
Appreciate it, guys.